Good afternoon, Chair, honourable members, colleagues.
Good afternoon. On my side, it says 1400. Can we start?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. You can see me, you can hear me.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, members of the Provincial Parliament, Standing Committee for the Mobility, and also good afternoon to the Department of Mobility, and good afternoon to the public out there, and also to those who might be watching online. So we are just now starting to have the consideration of Vote 8, Mobility in the Schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill 2025. I'm Noma French Mbombo, I'm the chairperson. So we start with the members introducing themselves, and then the department, starting with the minister, to introduce themselves, and then we give the minister some time, like 5 minutes or so, in terms of the introductory remarks. After we are done with the deliberations, we will be able to do the adoption of the draft of the report, and then we finalize with the resolution. Members, can you please introduce yourselves? Whilst you are, it doesn't matter whatever flow, but again, we need to remind ourselves of what are the rules of engagement in regard to the virtual meetings, where you have to switch off your mics when you are not speaking. After you are done with if you are speaking or you are doing the presentation, please again switch it off and unshare if you are done with the presentation. And also make it sure that, especially members of the public, you do not disturb the proceedings. You will be provided some time after the members have done the deliberations around that. So thank you very much. Over to the members for the introduction. Thank you.
Morning, Chair. Afternoon. It's Dave Bryant, member of the committee.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Minister and the department and members of the public. My name is Noko Masipa. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Professor Bombo, the collective committee, the MEC, and his collective. My name is Ben of this committee.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, MEC. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Noel Constable, and I am a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good afternoon,
Chair. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
My apologies, Brett. Good afternoon, Chairperson, Minister, officials, and members. I am Peter Johnson, member of this committee.
Good afternoon, Chair. I am Brett Heron, member of the committee.
Okay, thank you, members. With me, who will be assisting administratively is Ms. Jones, who's replacing Ms. Adams, who's taking time off. Thank you very much for making yourself available, Ms. Jones. And we are also here, Ms. Umkhubata, that is here. Thank you very much for that. Now over to the department. Minister, you will, when you're done with your introduction, you give it to the HOD to do the introductions, and then back to you. Just give us the 5 minutes overview. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Isaac Seleko, Minister of Mobility. Thank you.
Morning, Chairperson and members. Daryl Jacobs, Acting Head of Department. I want to say, Minister, we've got a very big delegation. If you allow just at least the members of top management to introduce themselves, because yeah, I'm worried we're going to take up a lot of the time by introducing everybody. If I can just go through them as I see the names. Antoine Jansen van Rensburg, who's Acting Chief Director at Government Motor Transport. Antoine, just put your camera on. And
Good afternoon, Chair. Antonius van Rensburg, Acting Chief Director for GMT.
Bernie McMahon. Bernie.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernie McMahon, Acting CD for Regulation.
Thank you. Deirdre Ribbenaar.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, members. Deirdre Ribbenaar, Chief Director, Transport Operations.
Rian Wiggle.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. I'm Rian Wiggle, the Acting CFO.
And Willie van der Merwe. Willie, where are you?
Apologies for that. Good afternoon, Chair, Minister, members. Willie van der Merwe, Acting Chief Director, Traffic Management.
Thank you very much, Chair. The rest of my team, it's a very big team, it's senior managers and deputy directors, but this is the top management team of the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Acting HOD. To the Minister, 5 minutes remarks, and then if the HOD wants to add after the Minister's remarks, and then afterwards we'll open it up for the members to ask questions on their remarks. Thank you very much.
Enkosi ke sihlalo manibulele kuwe ndibulele nakumalungu ekomiti ndibulele nakwi-department phansi kwe-leadership ka-Mr. Daryl Jacobs. Chair, we all know, especially during this year, when it comes to the budget, it has been unprecedented years. You know, we're still waiting for national whether we are going to be able to approve the VAT increase or not. And nonetheless, we are very grateful to the committee for inviting us to be able to table our appropriation budget 25-26, which is about 3.22 billion. And for the mobility department, and then for GMT is 1.72 billion. And Chair, the majority of our budget in terms of mobility is basically directed at public transport in metro areas and non-metro areas. But also, Chair, as I sit here in front of you today, we are living in a city which is the 6th congested city in the world when it comes to congestion. And as much as one would always want to use the theme or the tag of we are a new department, we can no longer say that, because the challenges in terms of freight, in terms of public transport, and all mobility solutions is growing exponentially. And then we'll have to come to a level where we have to step up and making sure that we do our best with the limited resources in making sure that we bring relief in terms of our commuters in our province. And also, Chair, what is also important is that we have come to realize that if we really want to bring a dent in terms of mobility issues in our province, we'll have to really, amplify our collaboration and our cooperation with other departments like your Transnet, like your PRASA, like National Department of Transport, the City of Cape Town, and all other municipalities, so that we can actually go to the same direction. So, Chair, with those few words, I will just allow the Acting HOD to share anything that I've left out so that we can allow the members of the committee just to engage, more time to engage with the budget so that we can be able to be of assistance in terms of the questions that we can answer to you. Once more, Chair, thank you very much for allowing us to be before you today. Thank you very much.
Any additions?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Members, in support of the Minister, we're certainly looking forward to this engagement. It's also the start of our strategic process. It's also, not too sure who's on, not muted. I see Mr. Boyson is unmuted. But we certainly thank you for the opportunity, Chair.
Okay. Is it Member Lekker? I think it's from your side.
I apologize.
Is it from your side, that noise? Okay, do you want to introduce yourself? Fine.
My apologies, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pat Lecker, and I'm an alternate to the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Minister and Acting HOD, for those words. Members of the committee, do you want to ask any questions based on the less than 5 minutes remarks from the Minister and the HOD, or can we go ahead? Okay, if there's no answer, we go. Member Constable.
Chair, sorry. Before we start with the deliberations, just one question. Why are we still having a lot of acting people in these positions? Are they acting in other people's places while they on leave, or is this position vacant? Thank you, Chair.
We've got that. Member Ngainsu. Thank you.
No, Chair. Given the fact that both the MEC and the acting HOD were just thanking us with no substantive input, so I propose that we may move forward. It's about politic.
Okay, we got that, but it's up to the Minister to respond on the question from Member Constable. Over to you, Minister.
Manibulele Sihlalo, ndibulele naku member Ngenso andizu ungena ke pha. But in terms of Member Constable, we, in terms of people that are acting, I have to say we don't have permanent members in those acting positions. As you have known that our HOD left last year November, and we had our interviews last week on the 24th for the acting for the HOD position. And in terms of traffic chief, the traffic management chief director, we also still don't have a permanent position. We have advertised. We are going to be going through a process of shortlisting. We are going to be filling that one as well. It's the same with the CFO. The interviews has been concluded, and we'll have to look at for the submission. I'm still waiting for the submission to reach me, and then based on that, we'll have to whether we agree with the recommendation or we're going to go out and re-advertise. But as we stand, we are in the process of trying to deal with all acting positions within the space of mobility, and that is one of the things that I've said to the acting HOD. We need to, bring stability within the department and make sure that positions that have been budgeted for, we are able to advertise, and then we get fit for purpose individuals in that particular position so that we can fill those positions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to start with the deliberations, members. So there are two options. Option one, we just want to thank the department for compiling the infographics that we can be able to use, because it summarizes everything. Secondly, it's about where we are in our blue book, budget book. We are on page 341 to 384 for the mobility. As we know, with the mobility, it has only got 4 programs. Actually, it's 3 programs, because the other program is just administration. Like we have got transport operations, we have got the transport regulation, we have the traffic management, for example, as one of those. So members, it's up to you whether you want them to do the presentation using the infographics, or we want us to go through the books. Also in the books, it doesn't have to be going page to page. We could just do it's just once. So what do you suggest? Or from Minister, what did you prepare? Were you going to present the presentations, or we wanted us to do book pages? I'm flexible.
No, it's up to you, Chair. We are in your hands.
Okay, I see a hand from Member Bryant.
Thanks very much, Chair. Chair, I would personally appreciate maybe the presentation and a bit more context in terms of the plans going forward, just to add some context to the blue book. So I would be keen to hear that, and I agree with you. I don't think we need to do page by page at all. We can just ask questions perhaps after that, but that's my proposal.
Okay, all right, thank you. Member Masipa.
Just raising my hand in support of Honorable Bryant. Let's go that route. Thanks, Chair.
The route of the presentation.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. Over to you, Minister. The presentations there so that the members could be able to triangulate the book plus also the graphics. Thank you very much.
Acting HOD, can you just fly the presentation, please?
Thank you. Can I check CFO? The infographic you was prepared, was sent through. Can you flight it for us?
I'll do so.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. You can speak to it, Ria.
Okay, thank you, HOD. Thank you, Minister. So in terms of the total budget, 3.22 billion for the Western Cape Mobility Department. We've got a separate infographic for the trading entity, which is GMT, which I'll flight subsequent to this. The total budget is split into the 4 programs. The majority of that allocation sits with Program 2, which is Transport Operations, 1.92 billion. That equates to 60%. The majority of that amount sits within the PTOG allocation of just over 1.2 billion in total. Then following that is Transport Regulations, 672 million. And then also Traffic Management, 547 million. The members would notice in the Blue Book, it is stipulated that traffic management will be a separate program from the 1st of April 2025 going forward. Currently, that is included in under Program 3 as well. So transport regulation and traffic management currently in the current financial year is grouped under one program. And then lastly, administration, 128 million. For administration program 1. Looking at the majority of the economic classifications, so basically compensation of employees, 635 million of this 3.2 billion is allocated to that. This is not sufficient to fill all the unfunded posts within the department, but we are still managing that within the COE ceiling and still applying the DPSA circular in terms of the process of looking at funding and basically when a post become unfunded, to look at the criticality of that and to post to submit to the Premier for approval in terms of criticality. So that process will still follow in the new financial year. Then also goods and services, 941 million. The majority of that is in terms of ICT spend and some other aspects, but the majority is in ICT spend and from a consulting perspective. Then also in terms of capital assets, smaller amounts, 56 million. This is mostly due to the replacement of PCs, etc., and also some office equipment. And then we've also got the development of software and intangible assets. I've alluded to the PTOG amount of 1.285 billion, which is included under Program 2. And then we've also got transfers to municipalities, and the majority of this sits within the Egyptian space for the transfer to George municipality. That total amount for transfer to municipalities equates to 285 million. And then we've also got a smaller amount of 2.2 million, which mostly is for early retirement benefits and leave gratuity that we are anticipating to settle for staff leaving the organisation. I'll just open the GMT infographic. Total budget of 1.72 billion. So for the trading entity, and basically from an expenditure perspective, 686 million is allocated to operations. The majority of that is for and repairs and maintenance associated to the fleet management. That's more than 50% of that total amount. Then we've also got an allocation of 77 million for COE costs, and we anticipate to fund 192 staff with that 77 million. And then also administration, 59 million. The majority of that is linked to administrative expenses. For example, banking fees, etc., license fees for software, etc. Then operating leases, this is the majority of that is for operating leases pertaining to tracking units within the fleet. That makes up about 80% of that 25 million. And then we've also got the allocation of 742 million for vehicle replacements, and we anticipate to buy 1,414 vehicles with that 742 million. But that amount also includes the conversion aspect and the extras fitted to vehicles. It's important to note that the vehicle replacement cycle generally is 5 years within GMT. So if we've got a fleet of 6,300 vehicles, on an annual basis, we need to replace approximately 1,400 vehicles, and that sits nicely within that space. Now we're going to fund this because from a trading entity perspective, it's self-funded. Revenue generated from tariffs, 911 million in total, and that's the daily and the kilometer tariffs. Worthwhile to mention that we reduced the tariffs by 1% with effect from the 1st of April 2025, and we just received approval from Provincial Treasury to reduce the tariffs, and basically this is our contribution to also alleviate fiscal pressures from client departments. Other income, 40 million. This is mostly pertaining to the disposal of vehicles and the returns that we generate, we plow back into the vehicle replacement cycle. 121 million in interest earned. This is on the main account and also the investment held through Provincial Treasury. And then we've got 17 million in services in kind, which pertains to the use and free use of all the sites and accommodation for the trading entity. And then lastly, 628 million we are intending on using from own funds and own resources because it is a cyclical process. The returns that we generate now, we will basically plow back over the useful life over 5 years in the vehicle fleet, and we intend on utilizing 628 million of own funds during the current financial year. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Members, the department has just tabled the vote 8, 3.223 billion rands. Now we can take the questions from members. Let's see the show of hands. Thank you very much for the presentation. Member Nglensu, number 1. Okay, two. Okay, wait. We've got 4. Okay, you will help me there. We have got member Nglensu number 1. Number 2 is number 3 is member Heron. Who's number 2? I can't see. But number 4 is member Constable. I cannot see the number 2 because it just gives me these numbers. But over to you. Thank you.
It's me.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't give me a number. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I will take about 5 questions for now, in the interest of also giving others a chance and also come back, because I categorize my questions in a particular form. The first question, and for the administrative arm and the MEC to get the sense, is on page 341. I've got about 3 questions. The first one relates to the crisis of traffic congestion. MEC and your collective, beyond the description of the problem and lamentation thereof, what should be done to address the issue of traffic congestion in the Western Cape? Sorry, in particular, in Cape Town. And that is found on the N1, N2, L300, including the old Lansdowne Road. Now, during peak hour, what are the plans? That's the first question which I wanted to pose. Because you just lamented, you just described the problem without seeking to say, here are the future plans for this financial year or whatever period. It could perhaps be a question of expansion of lanes or other innovative measures. The second one relates to the minibus taxi industry. Also, you are making a very good point. You are acknowledging the significant contribution the industry is making. But you later lament, right, accusing it wrongly or rightfully so, that that it has what? It is responsible for recklessness and many other things. Now, is it not perhaps the time for the provincial government and other spheres to accelerate the reforms in the taxi industry? The third point on the expansion of my city. Again, here the MEC and his collective only describe problems. What are the bases, fundamental bases for the delay in the expansion of my city in the metro? And in the course of that, are there any plans, as we argued previously, because I don't find this anywhere when you're dealing with the provincial national land strategic framework, I think some few weeks ago. Are there any plans to address also the question of infrastructure in the form of ensuring that there are also dedicated lanes, not only to work or to CBDs or towns, but also from industries and towns back to our township? On page 49, on the question of rail restoration, this budget report exposes the department's obsession with devolution and risk not following many developments, even if such developments coincides with your own neoliberal agenda of seeking private participation and also devolution. There's no acknowledgement of that in respect to developments in that front. And therefore, that is why this becomes suspicious. But importantly, there is no talk and even projections about the recent restoration of the central line to a point of reaching Krizani station in Makaza. Sorry, page 352, Chair. I think it's paragraph 4, 1 to 4. The department would also work with the municipalities of George to continue with managing Gold George. In her budget, MEC Batman allocated 4.035 billion over MTF to subsidize about 20,000 My City passengers and 268 million for 14,000 Gold George passengers. While these urban transport subsidies are not worth, what equivalent funding mechanism, Chair, exists for rural commuters in the region? I mean, in the province, to cover areas beyond the two municipalities, the city of Cape Town and George. What about Overberg? What about Central Karoo and the West Coast in this instance? And given the over-concentration of our people on minibus taxis as the sole mode of public transport in those areas. So I think it would be important that at least the MSC is able to talk to this question. Maybe the last point for now in this bite is on page 352. No, not that one. 353, program 4, traffic management. You are saying that you will continue to provide an effective 24/7 traffic service during this period. But regarding the recent incident, Chair, where traffic officers assaulted and nearly killed a taxi driver early this month, one seeks clarity on 3 matters. Whether disciplinary measures have been taken against the officer involved, if there exists any independent ombudsman or oversight body where such misconduct can be reported, and what specific regulation currently govern traffic officers' conduct, along with what reforms are being implemented to prevent future incidents of brutality in traffic law enforcement agencies. And the MSC will tick that particular question. I'll just pause there, Chair, for now. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Member Ngwensu. The second one is Member Heron. Thank you.
Is it me or Member Bryant?
According to here, it's Heron, number 2. Bryant is number, yeah, according to what I have.
Okay.
The system.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a few questions from the notes in the Blue Book. I'll start with on page 343, where it talks about how this department was established with an extensive and complex mandate. And then there's a paragraph or a sentence which I would like some explanation on. It says it was initially anticipated that a full organizational design process would build the functional capacity for the department to deliver both mobility and corporate functions. So I don't know if this sentence implies that it hasn't been achieved or it can't be achieved, or I don't know what we're trying to say here. We're trying to say that this department has not achieved the design process that would build a functional capacity. So if we can just get an explanation for that. Sorry, I'm just going through my notes. I think on page 346, there's another sentence which has got nothing really to do, I guess, with mobility, but it is an odd sentence. The Western Cape has achieved breakout economic growth, generating confidence, hope, and opportunities to thrive. I'm not sure that I heard that in the Minister of Finance's budget speech, that we'd achieved breakout economic growth, but maybe the department knows something that wasn't shared with us. The minibus taxi section on page 348 and beyond, there's still reference, and I'm going to keep raising this. I would like the department to explain to me what about the minibus taxi industry is not formal. The department prioritized and supported the formalization and improvement of minibus taxi services. What about the minibus taxi industry is regarded as informal. And I think if we start as a department with that mindset, that's why that will undermine any progress that we're trying to make with improving the services or integrating the services. This mindset that minibus taxis are not formalized, I don't understand that at all, given the regulatory control they're under, the sectoral determination with regards to wages. I mean, what about this industry is considered informal in terms of this department? I don't understand that at all. Bear with me. If I'm just going to ask all my questions, then I'm done. Just in terms of I'm now on page 355, which is the summary of receipts. I noticed that motor vehicle licenses is something that is part of the income for all the previous years until we get to 25-26, when there's no allocation in that chart. There's also a note at the bottom indicating that from this year onwards, the motor vehicle licensing fees have been shifted and been replaced by provincial equitable share. And if we can just get an explanation as to why that has happened. And it appears that the province raises 2.3 billion rand, if I look at this chart correctly, in motor vehicle licensing fees. And previously, in the last financial year, almost 900 million was allocated into the department's revenue. So what has brought about that shift in how the license fees are allocated? And then I have one last question. I just need to find how it's worded. Yes, this comes up quite often. The first time I see it is on page 361. The National Treasury has granted approval for the department to deviate from the provincial uniform budget program structures. If I can just get an explanation on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Bryant.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, a couple of points. Thank you to the Minister and to the HOD for that report and presentation. Firstly, just with regards to the procurement of new vehicles, I just want to find out from the Minister and the HOD side. I mean, it's going to be very, very important for us to ensure that we conduct a rigorous oversight to ensure that money that's been allocated is properly spent and that those vehicles are procured as per the commitment made. So I think it's going to be very important for us going forward, perhaps, Chair, with your assistance, to keep some sort of a tally and a spreadsheet in terms of that procurement, so that we make sure that by the end of the financial year, those targets have been properly achieved. Secondly, just in terms of the congestion issue, I know that a lot of the congestion that's being caused is twofold. One being the active and sort of proactive work that's being done, ironically, to improve the road networks, which is causing some delays, and infrastructural work. And I just wonder, Minister, whether it would be prudent to perhaps communicate a little bit more in terms of the positive work that's being undertaken, so that the perception isn't created that, you know, this is simply a case of neglecting the road networks. From what I understand, it's far from it. Part of the proactive work is actually leading to the congestion as well, at least in the short term. And then just finally, in terms of minibus taxis, it certainly is very important to be taking action against those who are engaged and involved in reckless driving, infringements and violence, etc. And one obviously doesn't want to tar everybody involved in the industry with the same brush. That would be very unfair. but it is very, very important that that continues, and it's good to see the proactive steps that are being taken. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Constable.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, allow me to quickly read something because the basis of my deliberation comes from this, and this is on the presentation that the department sent to us. It reads as follows: a budget for connecting people, goods, and institutions. The Western Cape Mobility Department is committed to improve mobility and creating inclusive and affordable public transport that drives socio-economic development and job creation for the residents of the province. Chair, when I read this, my heart cries so seer because your budget definitely is not for all the people of the Western Cape. I don't know if it is deliberate. I don't know if you are metrocentric, city-centric, or if you only look after the people of the city of Cape Town. I know because you always explain it like that. There is a lot of activities in the city of Cape Town. But because of your non-spending in rural areas, economic development can't happen there because people don't have a reason or don't have the resources or the facilities to travel. We need to be happy with 20 or 60 bicycles. That is so unfortunate. Your let me ask some questions because there will always be a urban versus rural allocation. And I already said that your focus is in the city of Cape Town. Now, this is my question, MEC, and your department. What justifications exist for the disparity in funding between urban centers and rural areas? When it gets to your demographics, rural communities face challenges related to higher transport costs and inadequate services, exacerbating inequality. Now the question is, how are demographic disparities being addressed in this allocation of transport resources? Are you really serious to assist the people in rural areas, or is it because you don't really travel there and you don't understand the dynamics of rural communities? Then with regards to monitoring and evaluation of projects, how many of these funds will you spend? How many of these funds will you spend again this year, this financial year, on consultants and service providers? Can we get that upfront? Because I know last year it was a very big question when it gets to consultants and the amount of money that you spend. What metrics are in place to evaluate the success of public transport initiatives in both urban and rural settings? And how frequently is the performance of these projects reviewed? And what adjustments are made in response to the findings? So, MEC, here is the thing. I would like you to look at the following: allocating an increased percentage of the budget to rural transport initiative to enhance accessibility, tangible changes in your budget. This could bridge the gap in service delivery compared to urban locals. Onze mense moet hier toe kom. Hoekom? Because your economic spin-off is only here and you don't provide access for economic or for investors to go to rural areas. Now, our community engagement, fostering partnership with local communities for input on transport needs, especially in underserved areas. Question now, how can the department enable feedback from rural communities on the transportation challenge? I know you have an ITP, I know you have an LITP, but can we do more to get the community engaged? Because currently in this standing committee, I'm the only voice really for the rural communities, and I'm proud to be a person coming from the rural communities. My next question: what plans are in place to integrate various transport modes in underserved communities? Is there plans? What plans are there to integrate it? And what is the time frames for those kind of plans? Last two questions. Are there public reports available detailing the use of funds across municipalities? This was my transparency question that I asked, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, because you send us a document and then there's a budget that says Western Cape, this is how much we will spend in the Western Cape. My question is, what is your budget per region, per municipality? Because the Western Cape is a province, but we have different regions and we have a metro and we have different municipalities. So I want you to be specific in saying what is the budget that you will spend on a municipality and in a region. How can citizens hold you or the government accountable for transport projects and the outcomes thereof? My last two questions, or just something that I want to add. I want to encourage a rolling budget approach that adjusts allocations based on historical performance and evaluation. Now the question is, how can continuous feedback improve the effectiveness of transport initiative and funding allocation? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Next member, Masipa. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairperson. I thought maybe you will proceed with the answers and then I. Or should I proceed?
You disappeared. Okay. Yeah, no, proceed. You are the last one before me. And then we allow the department to, yeah.
Chair, on page 43, page 348 on program 2, the report talk about the job seekers voucher, I just want to ask the minister maybe just to provide an update with regards to the performance of this program. On program 2, again on page 349, with regards to rail restoration and devolution, and I think one of our colleagues spoke about the congestions on the road. Just want Minister maybe to just update us with regards to all the rails that have been really back in operation in terms of what are the numbers looking like in terms of transporting people from their destination to place of work, if this program will, and obviously timelines, if the minister can share with us. Regarding the freight strategy and implementation program, we from the portfolio of economic development and tourism are quite involved in that regard, but we haven't seen really the visibility of this department in that. Can the minister maybe and the HO just share their real involvement in terms of really assisting the businesses with regards to the challenges that the ports have been facing, and obviously businesses have been complaining quite a lot about that. And also, the issue of the ATNS George being the West Heat, George Airport being the West Heat. What has been the department's involvement in terms of really addressing these issues? Because they have got a tourism and economic impact in our province. Chair, that's it for me for now. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think for me, it's my input so that we can allow the department to answer the questions, and also we can see whether there will be any follow-ups after that. So starting with when the department was presenting last year on the on the report. They spoke about the ministerial priorities, which I indicated then that for me, politically, it is of interest, because when I suggested that I'll be wanting to follow them in regard to whether they meet what we call SMART, S-M-A-R-T, but it's of no use if the resources don't follow that. So if probably the minister now, just to make a confirmation that there are resources now that have been assigned to those priorities, probably maybe to remind some of the members what were those priorities. I don't have to list them again. Understandable that some of them might not necessarily, some might start probably in the 4th year, but I'm interested in regard to that, because not only this minister, but all others, they always talk about their priorities. But if no resources that follow that, then it becomes just a political narrative. And then the second part, the part of the strategic plan of the province, it's about, they've got their priority apex that talks about supporting business and creating jobs. That is the main priority apex. So in the presentation, I was interested because Member Constable was talking about being the anti-SARAs that get left behind in the rural areas. At what extent now does this department, where they can showcase which business specifically, not a proxy for the jobs, which businesses they are supporting in terms of feeding to the provincial strategic plan in regard to that? Because like with the gaps, it's mostly subsidized, which is a subsidy mostly coming from the national. But I'm interested in terms of how do they contribute to that apex? And then thirdly, talking about also the anti-SARA will get left behind. The Treasury showcase some of the budget policy imperatives, and also in terms of how the whole of some of the specifically socioeconomic factors impact on the general status of the province. One of those is about, there's a correlation according to this book. It's your book. So there's a correlation between poverty and jobs, where there are jobs according to, because they granulated according to the districts, where there are jobs, you find that there's increase in jobs, there's improvement in the poverty line. That's what they showed. Now, at what extent now that, because when you look in terms of your mission and the vision, it talks about the connection, and also talks also about the employment voucher, is it the transport voucher, and all of those. At what extent have you looked in this regard? Again, it goes back to your strategic plan, and also related to in terms of the supporting business and also creating the jobs. Lastly, to piggyback on what Member Masipa indicated, because I'm part of the agriculture and economy, and then in most of the, like in the ports, it's the national transport. Understandable, some of these, they are not necessarily the mandate of the province. So I suppose they normally ask me, so are you going to, will there be a department who also, or are you going to do it jointly? I said, no, the provincial transport and mobility does not necessarily participate in the port. However, now that we have indicated on 349, as Member Masipa has indicated, we are part of that. I wasn't even aware that there's even a project management unit that is called the Port of Cape Town. I wasn't aware. Probably again, as Member Masipa has indicated, if you can probably say more about it, and specifically also in terms of the freight strategy, where the National Transport Minister indicated actually that there will be public-private. They are exploring part of those. And then lastly, you mentioned, which is part of your transport land framework, strategic framework, in terms of the GMT to have electric cars. But now we have taken it further, where you said that there will be, you'll pilot electric minibus taxi, there'll be pilot project on minibus taxi. Can you elaborate more on that aspect? How far are you in this regard? Because initially, in your strategic land strategic framework, you are only mentioning the GMT, where we start with the government cars in terms of the electrifying them. But now here on 349, that you'll be a development of a project, a pilot project of the electric minibus taxi. So far, if you could maybe elaborate on that. Members, let's provide an opportunity for the department to ask questions, because we took almost 30 minutes in terms of asking questions. So let's be patient and hear them, and then so that we can do the follow-up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I just want to check if the Minister wants to make some initial responses, provide some initial responses before I manage with my team the further questions. Minister?
No, thank you very much, Acting HOD, and thank you very much to the honorable members, and thank you very much, Chair, for the questions. Chair, I will just answer some of the few questions, and then the Acting HOD will direct the colleagues to deal with some of the issues mentioned. Firstly, Chair, let me deal with the issue of congestion. Chair, I agree with the member that congestion is actually a challenge for all of us. And hence we are working together with the City of Cape Town. And I think colleagues, when they answer the question of congestion, will be able to elaborate what is it that has been done from the side of the city just to try and alleviate the challenges that we are facing when it comes to congestion in the city. And also from my side, as a ministry, I have initially, I think 3 weeks ago, initiated a discussion, internally to say what is it that we are going to do from the side of the ministry to make sure that we deal with this issue. Because this issue is an issue that has been coming for years now, and we cannot just keep on talking about it and expect other spheres of government like the municipalities, who can contribute to the infrastructure, deal with this issue. So from our side also, we'll have to look at plans. What is it that we're going to do from the space of mobility? So subsequent to that, I've taken a decision that we are going to have a working group internally that is going to look at possible solutions in how we are going to deal with this elephant in the room, which is called congestion. As members were present when the Minister of Finance tabled the budget last week, saying that if we can attend to the issue of congestion, it can actually unlock 5.6 billion into the economy of this province. So that is a serious issue, and I can say to Member Ngenzu, there is no one bullet or silver bullet solution to deal with the congestion in the city of Cape Town. So it will need a whole of society approach and all stakeholders making sure that we actually deal with this elephant. And then the issue of the minibus taxi industry. And I need to share with the members that we do actually engage with the minibus taxi industry on the minibus taxi task team meetings. We had one, I think, last week. And all of the issues in terms of that is of concern, those issues are dealt there, and those issues are flagged there. And we have the City of Cape Town present, we have Santaco present, and we have the Department of Mobility present. And all of those issues that is of concern, and that is actually because the perception some outside is almost like with the manner in how the industry has been treated is not in the right way. But when you get to the meeting, you find that it's actually not, it's not like that. So I would just want to say, in terms of the recklessness, everybody agrees that, the reason why majority of residents or commuters don't use public transport is an issue of recklessness, and it can also go to private vehicles as well. So what we are doing in that regard, we are not going to leave it as a statement that we with just recklessness within the sector and we are not going to correct it. We are engaging with the sector and saying, how does one improve, the manner in how the drivers are actually driving? And hence we are in the process of regulatory impact assessment, to enhance road safety within our province, not only on public transport, but on private vehicles as well. We are looking at measures, legislative and non-legislative, to make sure that there is better driving, there is better driver behavior on our roads. That is very much important. I think that's what is important. As much as one would flag the problem, but we are also saying that we need to deal with the issue. And that's why, when the colleagues respond, they will go into specifics in terms of what is it that we are trying to do, looking at how one can actually train drivers so that they can become better drivers, and also looking at possibilities within the minibus taxi task team. What is it that we are proposing, or what is the industry proposing to make sure that there is better, driving within the industry. Also, in terms of rail, just last week, I released a media statement congratulating PRASA for the work that they have done, in terms of the central line, and just this morning I received a WhatsApp from the general CEO, in terms of, congratulating us and, saying thank you very much for the media statement that we have released, because ultimately we all agree that rail has to be the backbone of public transport, and all the efforts that we are doing, or all the efforts that has been done from the side of PRASA, must be congratulated, must be also, encouraged. And we have done it from the side of mobility, because ultimately we also understand that we need to collaborate, we need to coordinate, and we need to, support, one of us when they are doing well, and we have been doing that. And subsequent to that, we have written him a letter saying that we would want to look at the progress that they are making. Chair, someone is Masintle uyangihola, Chair.
Mam Khubata, it's you who's making a noise.
Thank you very much, Chair. And also, Chair, the issue of devolution, we were clear on that one, and as we've got different views, but the province, it's clear on that one. When the time is right, we will engage in that, because we are pro devolution, and that is something that we are not going to be high about it. It is our approach, and we feel that as the capable state that can fulfill the function to the best of its ability must be given a responsibility to do that, and we are pro that. So there is not an issue in terms of that from our side. And also, I would just, in terms of the access, or in terms of public transport, because there's a perception that we are also just focusing on the metro. And as much as one would also understand that when you talk about the Go George, it's not in the metro, it's a non-metro municipality, and also in terms of the plans going forward, I think Deirdre will elaborate what is it that we are doing, in Hermanus, and what is it that will be looking at doing in terms of the Central Karoo, in terms of making sure there is rural access going forward. And also, Chair, and I'm not going to delve into the questions, like Member Nancy has been saying, I'm blue ticking some of the questions. The issue of assault of drivers. It as a human being, whenever anyone assaults anyone, it's not something that I'm going to approve, or something that I'm going to applaud. I will definitely condemn such. It can be a traffic officer, it can be a taxi driver. So whenever there is violence, we are not pro-violence. So that's something that must be clear. And and those are the questions that is happening in another sphere. And members, in the minibus taxi task team are raising these issues, and then they are given the relevant questions in terms of that. So I dealt with the issue of congestion, and there is success stories that the city of Cape Town is doing in trying to relieve congestion in the city. And one is I agree with Member Brian that we need to share more of those stories that is currently happening. And yeah, on the Port of Cape Town, Chair. The Port of Cape Town, Chair, and I think what is important, what we need to note about it is that we are working together with DDAT in terms of that. And I agree with you that we are not talking a lot about it. We are not sharing a lot of information in that regard. And I think there is an opportunity for us to also just elaborate in terms of the work that has been done thus far and all the positives that you're currently seeing on the port of Cape Town. Of course, it's a joint venture between the Department of Mobility and DDAT, and we are doing well in that regard. And we will continue doing that in terms of collaboration, making sure that we actually bring relief in terms of the port of Cape Town. And also in terms of the PLTF, Chair, if one have to look in terms of the cry from the committee, there has been an outcry in terms of public participation, especially for municipalities that are out of the metro. And if one look at the plan going forward, we are also looking at maybe of opening up for there is public participation, especially at municipalities, not just focusing only on online or using media, but also we have to have face-to-face sessions in different municipalities. And because that has been that outcry when we presented the PLTF to the committee, and we've listened to that outcry, and we've subsequently made arrangements to look at how can one actually better facilitate public participation so that no one can feel left outside. Udiadre will also speak to the issue of the job seekers voucher. And just in terms of the numbers, we had the stats that I received last week was that currently there's about 110,000 commuters using our trains per day, which is far less than what we used to have. We used to have 700,000 commuters on a daily basis using our trains. So you can see that the effort is not even close to what we used to have. Hence, it's important that we need to have a plan in terms of how can one, spread or amplify the good work that has been done by PRASA, so that more and more people actually are using our trains. And one is encouraged that over the weekend, from the side of sports and cultural affairs, there were jazz on the train, from Cape Town to Langa. It was fully packed, and those are kind of initiatives that one would want to spread all over our province to make sure that so that we can actually, bring awareness about the work that has been done from the side of PRASA in terms of making sure that we recover our railway line in here. Chair, if there's anything that I've lost, I'll come back to you, but I'll give over to the acting HOD.
Robert, before we give it to HOD, the priorities, ministerial priorities, because it has come back to you.
Okay, Chair. Yeah, thank you very much. In terms of my ministerial priorities, as much as I would have loved to have a lot of money in terms of all my priorities and piggyback for my ministerial priorities, there is unfortunately no separate funding for the ministerial priorities, but it is incorporated into the existing projects. So there is no specific money that says ministerial priorities and this is the budget for you. So it has been institutionalized and is been incorporated. And I'll just go to the public transport sector. There has been an allocation of 1.1 million for Overstrand for a non-motorized town. Also in terms of Go George, the only ITPA integrated transport plan in the country. So there's also funding. It was rare. It was shown in our presentation. A lot of money has been transferred to Go George. It also deals to public transport. It also deals with rural access, because ultimately what you want to see, the expansion of Go George would be able to go to areas that they are currently not going to, and it's mostly in rural areas. And also in terms of our pre-feasibility studies that we are currently doing, in terms of park and ride, we are also going to be looking at that. Funding has been given for that, and yeah, that's the first one in public transport. In terms of freight and logistics, the Overberg revitalization framework, there is funding that has been provided in that one. So in terms of road safety, that's another priority from my side. we have seen, we have seen that funding has been put aside, especially for traffic management. We have seen a slight and steady decline in fatalities. And as much as I'm still concerned, about 55% of deaths are pedestrians. Just in the past 3 weeks, we've also lost about 33 pedestrians. So it shows that as much as one is doing a lot in terms of awareness and education, we continue to see pedestrians losing their lives, in our province. And one is also grateful to the money that we've been given from the side of the Department of Public Works nationally in terms of safety ambassadors. That will also assist us in making sure that we are able to deal with the element in the room, which is our pedestrian fatalities, specifically in the metro. So those are the kinds of funding that we have received, that it also speaks, indirectly to my priorities, not just specifically, having a specific and dedicated budget only dealing with that. It's intertwined and it's dealing with all of those that I have mentioned. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Acting HOD.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and members, for the many, many questions, and provided a lot of insight also and challenging our thought processes, and we thank you for that. There's a number of questions relating to minibus taxi industry, rail restoration, intertown transport, even MyCity operations, bus operations. And some of the freight questions will be handled by Ms. Ribbenaar. I would just deal with some of the questions now before I hand over further. I think if I go to Member Heron's question around the need for the organizational design process, that we are currently in phase 2 of the organizational design process. What had happened, some 18 months ago, was the phase 1 sort of clean cut in terms of determining and splitting up the Department of Transport and Public Works into infrastructure and mobility, with the infrastructure incorporating human settlements, and some of the human settlement staff also being incorporated within mobility. We're now in the phase 2 organization process. The OD team have already started with that process, and the intent is that this will refine and clean up whatever. Now that we've been operating for just a little bit more than a year, we're in a position where we're now able to clean up, look at what has worked, where there are still challenges and organizational challenges, and respond to those. So the organizational design team from the Department of the Premier are currently handling that particular process. I also just want to say to Member Heron, the statement around the breakout economic growth was straight from the Growth for Jobs statement in the Provincial Strategic Plan. And all we did was to insert that statement and then indicate how we as a department are supporting that particular statement. Whether I can't say whether that statement is correct or not, but it was clearly reflected in the PSP and in relation to Growth for Jobs and the Growth for Jobs strategy. I can also just deal with the motor vehicle license fee income. If you look at the allocation for 24-25 versus 25-26, the differential is in the range of about 900 million rand, and the agreement with Provincial Treasury, it was at the request of Provincial Treasury, to say that allow all of the motor vehicle license fee income to be allocated to Department of Infrastructure for in support of infrastructure-led growth, but that the quantum of what and normally what would happen, there would be a 70-30 split, 70% to the infrastructure, the road side of things, and 30% would come to the mobility side of things, the public transport side. The decision was that the quantum, or that this department would not be shortchanged at all. So exactly what would normally have been allocated outside of the out of that, the motor vehicle license fee income will now be incorporated as part of our equitable share. So we're not shortchanged at all. We're simply exercising and collecting motor vehicle license fee, but where the full amount is then allocated to Department of Infrastructure to drive the infrastructure-led growth approach. Mr. Boyson can deal with the uniform program structure deviation. The questions also, Minister has responded to some of the questions around congestion, but Deirdre can speak to more of what we've also doing, recognizing that actually an increased investment in public transport is going to be the only way to get people out of their vehicles, their private vehicles, and into public transport. So we need to restore confidence within public transport. I think Member Constable's questions also deals with increased funding to rural communities, and Deirdre can also speak to some of what we are doing in terms of intertown transport, and particularly all of investment outside of the metro, because as a department, we fully agree and concur that we have to look after public transport throughout the province. And that is why the provincial land transport framework is so important for us, as well as the investment or the responsibility that is vested in local municipalities to develop integrated transport plans, which takes the particular need within the community into account. In terms of the freight strategy, and just both Chair and Member Masipa, I mean, we've been driving the Western Cape freight strategy and using, amongst others, the Western Cape freight demand model, which we'd love to present to you at a separate occasion. But that's our driving force. The project management unit, we're actually going to be rolling out, and we're just waiting on Casidra, because we're going to be using Casidra as to coordinate that project management unit. We're just waiting for formal confirmation from Casidra, but building the business plan has already been agreed on as to what it is we're going to do, but the vehicle we will use is Casidra as the province's project management entity. And then I think around electric cars, and particularly electric vehicles within public transport, Ms. Ribbenaar will also deal with that, supported by Antoni Janse van Rensburg, who's driving the electric vehicle strategy within government motor transport. Deirdre, can I hand over to you? Mm-hmm.
Thank you, HUD. Thank you, Minister, through you, Chairperson. I'm going to attempt to answer Member Nagensha and Member Heron's questions as a start, but I do want to premise that from a public transport perspective, both the Minister, and I think he's largely answered a lot of the questions, and our acting HOD, Jacobs, they've stressed the need for partnerships. So I do want to assure the committee that there is nothing that we do as a provincial sphere that we don't do with our partners. So when it comes to the City of Cape Town and congestion, Member Nagensha, we participate in a platform called IPC, as well as ALTAB with the City of Cape Town. It's City of Cape Town sort of committees that's established to deal with every element when it comes to public transport. So we participate in those structures. And when it comes to congestion, it's a very difficult issue, and we're not building our way out of this problem. You construct more roads, you'll definitely introduce more private vehicles or vehicles onto those roads. So we know that that's not a sustainable solution. We do realize that the only way to deal with congestion is with a mass mode mover. So that is something like rail and your sort of BRT dedicated lanes in a metro context. And that's something that the City of Cape Town, through the My City program, has really put quite a bit of work into achieving. From a rail perspective, we've developed the MOU that the lawyers are now speaking to from a PRASA regional metro rail perspective as to how do we support each other formally now. We've supported metro rail for the last 20 years from a safety and reliability perspective. We've done it in ways that we can provide the committee with all the enforcement capabilities to make the passenger feel safe. We also, at this point, are, as Minister mentioned, we're working on a park and ride. So you want to attract commuters to the rail system. And we're very encouraged with what is happening from a rail perspective. It's going to be slow and steady. It's not going to be overnight. So from, I think, 2005 is when Metro Rail, specifically in our province, elected to provide quite a bit of infrastructural investment. Unfortunately, it took a long time to do this, and we haven't gotten to the point where, from a signalization perspective, a coach perspective, all of those things, we are where we need to be. So it's 20 years of underinvestment that requires Metro Rail national government to deal with. So we are partnering with them through that. The park and ride is about making sure that people feel comfortable to park a car and then get onto rail. So we want to make sure that it's not only those that stranded commuters that can get onto rail, but it's also the ones that elect not to get onto public transport. So we have now just finalized our park and ride sort of business case, which we are going to present to firstly Minister and then to Cabinet in the month of April. I always say God willing. So that is going to be focused on the Southern Line as a start, because that's one of the more stable lines for Metro Rail at the moment, and it is a pilot. Then we are going to go to Stellenbosch as well, and the park and ride study there is how can you ease congestion with identifying strategic areas where where passengers and potential passengers can park their cars, get into existing. We're not going to add, we're going to use existing modes of public transport, such as the minibus taxi industry, such as cabs, such as rail where it is operational, and then shift from private car to and move it into the heavily congested Stellenbosch central town, but also allowing a better connectivity from the surrounding communities in the larger Cape Winelands area. When it comes to minibus taxis, Member Nagesha said that we acknowledge that they move the masses. And yes, we do. We're not only sketching the problem, Member Nagesha. I've just realized that we have to connect the status quo to what we're doing a little better, so that it doesn't seem like we're just stating a problem. In terms of the minibus taxi industry, as Minister said, we've got quite a bit of platforms, but most importantly, the minibus taxi task team. In that task team, we have agreed collectively with Santaco that we have to come up with a program that speaks to all their issues. And hence Shayla Smart. And when we were dealing with the PLTF session, I did expand on the program slightly, but it's important also to know that in terms of government, there is processes that we have to go through, and ministers highlighted that in a recent media release and interview, that we are laying the foundation for a sort of whole approach to the minibus taxi industry reform. And I'm not going to call it formalization. I know Member Heron hates that word, but it's a reformation of what's happening in the industry right now. So we know operationally there are challenges, and we're coming with an infrastructure solution to that. We also know that from an efficiency perspective, there are lots of improvements that the different regions, so in the metro, there's 6 regions. Outside of the metro, there's 2 minibus taxi regions, and how we can operationally fix what needs to happen there. We also realize that there's an issue of training capacitization of the people that's front-facing, which is your drivers. So we are wanting to establish a minibus taxi training academy, because we do believe there's a lot of work to shift behavior change, but there's also an economic imperative, and there's an economic reality around subsidy. And it's not subsidy to the mode, it's subsidy to the passenger. So right now, Golden Arrow, Metro Rail, My City passengers are subsidized, but not so much the minibus, not the minibus taxi passenger. So we are building programs around that as an alternative to the BRT solution. When it comes to the expansion of My City, Member Nagensha, I do think that the City of Cape Town would have to be called for that. I don't want to misrepresent any facts in terms of why there has been a delay with the negotiation and the processes around phase 2A. When it comes to rail restoration, as I mentioned, we have got a draft MOU that the lawyers are speaking to, and that we are going to finalize very soon in this new financial year. From a Go George perspective, I hear you, Member Nagensha, that there is life outside of George municipality, as well as the City of Cape Town. I do want to assure you that we've looked at every district. We've looked at Central Karoo, West Coast. We've analyzed the status quo, so it's more of the problem. I appreciate that. But we've come up with a solution now in terms of focusing on Central Karoo as well as Overberg. So we're going to focus on the towns of Beaufort West and Overstrand and the connectivity of those inhabitants to the surrounding towns. So we call it a mobility strategy for those 2 districts. It is looking at, because I don't necessarily think it's always about adding modes to this, because in both towns, it is the only mode that is generally available to those inhabitants is the minibus taxi industry. So it's about how we utilize those operators to do a dedicated service, how we efficiently do that in a safe way. So that's work, and hopefully in the first quarter of the new financial year, we can give you a lot more progress on where we've gotten with that. In terms of Member Heron's question around why do we keep using the word formalization, I was hoping that I covered it in the PLTF session, but Member Heron, as government, if we want to contract with anybody, at this point we can't contract with an association or a mother body, so we do need to formalize them into business. So a lot of the minibus taxi associations are not formalized into businesses, and that's, I suppose, why we use the term. But it is reforming industry, and we're reforming them from bottom up and top down. So it's about the driver, and for him to understand why it's important to change his behavior, so that from a safety perspective, we give passengers confidence that it's good to get into a taxi. From the top down, it's about the management of their business. So I think that it's a lot of hand-holding that is required, and they have done an exceptional job as to be this industry that moves the masses, 10 years down the line, but I don't think that there's any harm in supporting them the way we are doing now. When it comes to I think Member Bryant also spoke about congestion, and that is all the partnerships we're running with industry, with the minibus taxi industry, and national government as well as local government. When I get to Member Constable's comments, and I do hear the frustration, and I appreciate that, and trust me, we we on the red carpet a lot with our accounting officer and our executive. But Member Constable, our lived reality when it comes to local government is that capacity is incredibly constrained at local government level. We've done quite a bit of work in municipalities. If I just consider some of the work we've done in Overstrand as example, Worcester, we help them do their planning. So in order for you to construct anything, there's conceptual design, detailed design, and that's important in order to get the infrastructure investment into the town so that these local government municipalities can approach national government in terms of MIG funding, in terms of BFI applications and all the grants that can only be accessed by local government. So we make sure that the foundation is ready and that they are spade ready when it comes to the implementation of infrastructure. As the HOD said, we do require quite extensive investment from an infrastructure perspective. Our focus is on the planning. So our public participation, you said you know about the LITPs and CITPs and DITPs, but that's where we do engage from a transport perspective. That's our mandate, is to go out and assist the municipalities to hear what communities are saying and what they're wanting from a specific transport perspective. So that platform's Member Constable is the only, from a transport mandate perspective, where we do approach our communities, because we do believe nothing about communities without them. So we need to understand what it is that they believe. And if we categorize it, it's safety, it's affordability, it's accessibility. You actually just need the mode to be there at an affordable and reliable opportunity. From a job seekers voucher perspective, I think we've done really well by only demonstrating this on one mode, Chairperson. We've got 156 registered companies. From a beneficiary's perspective, it's 3,500, of which 50% of them have now reported that they've gotten formal employment. When it comes to Member Masipa's question around our participation that seems lacking, we've done extensive work, so that's a bit of a punch. So we work with DDAC. The PMU or Ports Management Unit is something that we partnered and that we are largely the interim structure managing on behalf of DDAC. The partnerships will be formalized after April. We have done the freight strategy. We work with, in terms of the implementation plan of the freight strategy now, we've done at least my count, 18 separate projects when it comes to truck stop studies. It comes to the sort of participation body. I don't want to necessarily call it a representative body, but a body of industry, and we've done work as to how we can set that up so that industry is represented with government. And we know that this is all the private sector partners that we are dealing with the freight industry and what the issues are. We've even gone as far as assisting with a WhatsApp group for port congestion. So there's quite a bit of work we're doing. The Freight Rail Revitalization Program, because National is coming up with quite a bit of reforms from a freight perspective, we as the Western Cape want to make sure that we're participating and we're ready to participate. So what's our role in the sector? So how do we bring private sector investment in a way that speaks to the processes of government and all the partners? So we've even gone as far as doing a project that maps institutionally who does what. And so that we don't step on toes and we make sure that efficiently we bring all the partners together. I hope I've covered all of it. I have rushed through a little bit of it, but so is the members. The first time I've seen the members speak so fast. So I hope I've jotted down all the questions, Chairperson. HOD Minister.
Thank you, Deirdre. Chair, can I request Mr. Boyson just to deal with the uniform program structure deviation and then the question on electric vehicles for Antoni Jansen van Rensburg just to deal with that particular question. Certainly, Kenny.
Thank you, HOD, Chairperson, members, and Minister. Yes, what happened was that when we came over into this department, we had a little bit of a confusion or not a good situation in terms of how our budget program structure was structured vis-a-vis our organizational structure. So we had to correct that, and the process to correct that is called a deviation. You need to apply to National Treasury via Provincial Treasury to correct that. It is now corrected, and it will be implemented from the 1st of April. So what it means basically is that now our budget framework is aligned to our delivery system, our organization structure. So in the past, what happened, for example, Chair, is that if you look at some of our organization directorates were allocated, like for example, operator licenses and permits were actually allocated in a different program in transport operations. But organizationally, on the organization structure, it belongs to transport regulation. So what happened now is that those were actually corrected. Now it falls in the correct program structure, and it also falls in the correct organization structure. Another issue that was a problem was, for example, that both transport regulation and traffic management were actually regarded as one program from the budget point of view. But it's actually in the organization sense, two different chief directorates. So now from the 1st of April, you have 4 budget programs in the department. Program 1, administration. Program 2, transport operations. Program 3, transport regulation, is now a separate program with a separate program manager. And program 4, traffic management, is now a separate program with a separate program manager. All of this now nicely aligns to the organization structure. So there's no confusion or anomaly between the budget program structure and the organization structure, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Antoni?
Thank you, HOD, Chairperson, members, and Minister. In response to electric vehicles, it's quite an exciting environment that's currently developing. And if we think in the context of people transport the vehicles, there's 2 sort of focus areas that comes to mind for GMT. And one is the academic research area. And the University of Stellenbosch is quite active in that area because they recently built a prototype vehicle. That's a people transporter vehicle, or generally known as a taxi. And they have done a lot of research in that area, from designing the vehicle to the actual vehicle that's currently being used. And they continue to develop this vehicle. So obviously that specific project was a focus area for GMT in terms of our electric vehicle strategy. And one of the focus areas, as mentioned, is to look into research of new vehicles in the electric vehicle space. So that drawn some attention, and obviously Toyota being quite also active in new energy vehicle space. They also approached GMT because we partnered with the University of Stellenbosch as one of our projects to look into these type of research projects. Toyota approached us, and they are currently working on a public transport vehicle or taxi vehicle to do a prototype build, and invited GMT to partner with them on that. So it's still early days, and we are sort of limited by a non-disclosure agreement in terms of the full sort of opportunity that can present. But there's definitely good signal in terms of a potential prototype vehicle that can benefit the GMT fleet, and it can also present opportunities for the minibus taxi industry. So we'll definitely follow through on that and then report as we move forward with that relationship with the University of Stellenbosch and Toyota South Africa. Thank you, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hope in the last 45 minutes we've done justice to the questions that have been posed. Back over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for the comprehensive response. Members, are there any follow-ups in regard to maybe if your question hasn't been responded according to your satisfaction? Number 1 is Member Masipa. Number 2 is Member Ngensu. Number 3 is Member Bryant. Thank you very much. Is there anyone who has got any? Is that it? That's it. Okay, let's take these and see how it goes. Off you go, Member Masipa.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to Minister and HOD and the department officials for the responses. I'm back at 341, page 3, with regards to rail restoration and devolution. I think the statement, maybe I'm not reading it incorrectly. It states that devolution of rail, which is an approved national policy, and obviously identified opportunities to restore rail as the backbone of transport in Cape Metro functional region. I just want to really go back to this question to ask the Minister. As far as I'm concerned, is that Minister of Finance, Kodongwana, did ask the Metro to provide a feasibility plan for this. And the Metro did a feasibility plan which estimated to cost 123 billion, if I recall the amount. Since then there was this question as to whether, devolution of powers of rail to the province is a feasible thing by the ministers that followed in this regard. I just wanted to know what is really the latest with regards to this from the current minister in terms of devolution of power. Again, I think on this one is really what is the preparedness from obviously the national minister to also ensure that funding follow, the devolution of power to the province and the city. The second question, Chair, it will be a new question. It won't be a follow-up question. I've been really going through the numbers from page 375 on the Blue Book. 375, I note quite some increase in certain line items. So I just want to get a feel as to what the department's thinking is in terms of this increase in budget. So the line item on advertising, I see that has gone substantially up on 375. If I can really be made to understand the reason for the up. And there is also line on operating lease. Also the amount there has gone up. Just maybe some understanding from the previous 2024-25 was 648, maybe I'm not seeing correctly. Then adjusted to 520, but now back to 648. Revised estimates for medium term was 520, but then it went up. 377, page 377, on catering. 377. Yes, is it 377? Yes, 377 on catering. We see also the amount has gone quite substantially up there. If the department can maybe just provide. And I also see the consultants' fees have gone up to more or less about 60% up, consultancy fee. Maybe, the question that was asked by Honorable Constable with regards to the capacity why there's so many acting, is the consultancy fee as a result of maybe the department is not fully capacitated itself or what, if that can be clarified. I also note, I think in two areas, that's travel and subsistence, that are also quite up, Chair. If, the department can really provide clarity around that, is on page 377. And also, if you go to 378, also subsistence, also I saw the amount is quite high. And obviously the consultants as well, again on page 378, consultancy fees gone up with about, I think, the 31%. Lastly, on 378, travel and subsistence have also gone quite substantially up. Even the revised budget was 2.051 million. And then with this 2024, 25, 26, 27, it's gone up to 5.5 million rands. So, Chair, that's all from my side. The set of new questions, they're obviously set of the old question, but I must also say thank you for your update. We missed you, Minister, or your department when we did an oversight visit at the port. So your input actually were missed if you are really participating fully in terms of really sorting the port out. But I don't think I was ever really answered with regards to ATNS system that is really giving pilots a nightmare in George, especially when the visibility is a problem, the flights aren't able to land, and obviously it affects our economy there. Thanks, Chair. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Member.
I think we lost you, Chair. I can't hear you speaking from my side. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Sorry, it's Member Brian, because what is confusing is because Member Ngranj is already, the video is on, but in number 2 is Member Brian. So you are intimidating me. Member Brian, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, yeah, it's just a brief follow-up. 2 points. I think the first one is there does seem to be perhaps a little bit of vagueness in terms of roles and responsibilities, particularly when it comes to things like the ports. And I think perhaps that's something that needs to be clarified quite urgently for people like Member Masipa, who has obviously also taken on quite a lot now with the port issues, but it would be great, I suppose, to be able to share that burden and that load to improve the overall condition there. Second question is just in terms of devolution. It was something that was mentioned by the Minister and a couple of the officials. We have obviously been discussing the devolution of rail for a very long time, and PRASA, devolving some of that responsibility and having that managed on a sort of more local, provincial level. Just to the Minister and potentially acting HOD, would the provincial department be ready at present if, let's say hypothetically, there was an opportunity now for that devolution to take place, and would the systems kind of be ready to go, so to speak? Thanks.
Member Ngranju. Unmute. You're still muted.
He's intimidating us, this one.
We can't. We can't hear you. Okay, I'm not sure whether it's me, but I still can't hear you.
No, I can't hear him either.
Yeah, neither.
But you are talking. We can't hear. Is there, sorry, someone can please help Mrs. Jones? Can you please probably ask the IT person to assist meanwhile?
Noted, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Duka, let's come back to you because we can't hear you.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Okay, we'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back. I think for me, it's about again to go back because with what a member Masipa is saying again, the issue of the ports, because you're only targeting the seaport, specifically the port of Cape Town. I think the reason that we are showing interest because we were there for a visit. So one of those is last week when the agriculture SC was doing the deliberations, they specify, because I was trying to get actually from the treasurer's book in terms of how much they're investing. They specify there's money that they actually allocated. I'm trying to get it out. Money they've allocated specifically on the ports in terms of I think it's mostly on the IT and all of those money. There's a money there they've allocated. So when you say we are working closely with the Department of Economic Development, exactly what is it? Is the POCT project management unit, is it within here at the mobility or it is at the DDAT? And secondly, in terms of the resources, what are you bringing to the table there in regards to the port? And then thirdly, why only the seaport? Why also not the airport? Why are we putting all these under one basket? And then I think the last one, it's in relation to, again, can you be able, not necessarily now, to share in terms of what is it that you are already doing in terms of maybe the strategy in terms of the electrifying the minibus, the taxi? Not necessarily if you might not have it now, but it's because you said that you have already done the development of the pilot project, just for us to have an indication in terms of what does it entail. Thank you very much. Member Ngansu, are you still unable to come in? If not, can we... Yes, okay, we can hear you. Go ahead, thanks.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate, Chair, the response provided by the MEC and his collective. And I can see that many of the members here are indeed preoccupied or perhaps have deep interest on both the port of Cape Town, as well as the whole notion of devolution of rail. And given the responses by the department, and I want them to, to prove me wrong, it appears that they are not following the current development, and that this budget is not developed within the context of the changing realities in the two sectors in particular. And I don't think the department is aware about the roadmap for the freight logistics systems, which actually has called for the request for information for, as I said earlier, your neoliberal private participation forces, to come in. So I feel that I must make this point, and that is hence in the province. We remain opposed to any participation of private in ports, given our understanding of the logic of private capital. Even if your forces agree, same as the devolution in this instance, I feel that I must make that point. The second issue is not yet the follow-up, relate to, is on page 353. The department will work with you. You claim that you are going to work with the Department of Education to advance education awareness in schools. Regarding the interdepartmental collaboration between mobility and Department of Education, what specific measures are being taken to improve safety in the unregulated scholar transport sector? And this question was also advanced by Santaco when they had a meeting with them, and you were present. And for example, in the Poland region, learners were recently transported to school in a trailer at the back of a minibus taxi, a clear violation of safety standards. Therefore, what concrete steps are being implemented or taken to regulate this industry by your department? Now, also on table 9.1, what are the reasons for the decreased budget? 9.2, what are the reasons for the decreased budget for these programs, especially for land transport development system and freight program? 9.4, the budget for this program reflects a 20.19% increase in compensation of employees' expenditure. Therefore, in light of this, could you provide an update also? And we understand that there is acting of Mr. Payne in this instance status. And given the cloud over his head, has he retired or what? Now, 9.5, Chair, what are the reasons behind the decreased budget allocation for this program regarding the management of the government vehicle fleet? And could you provide an update on the status of your BMs in this instance? And finally, congestions. It appears that the department, as a department, you are throwing your hands on the air because one is unable to get anything concrete to say. Here's the possible response. Maybe the committee, Professor Noma French, we should consider a study on this question. How other countries and cities, big cities, have responded to it? Because both the city of Cape Town and the department appear to be on the back foot. Finally, the minibus taxis. I think MSC, I don't get you on this, and I think you continue to prove me correct when I say you have wittingly or unwittingly have a bad blood with the taxi industry, an industry constitutive of retrenched and dismissed workers from different industry who are actually what? Investing their monies, and the only black-owned industry. Now, because I don't think the department is appreciating the source of what is perceived as reckless driving. What is the source of this problem? And the department understands this as a behavioral problem and a problem that can be addressed through training. Even your Shayela is not going to resolve this problem. Unless, and again, you could not respond to a question raised by member Brett Heron on what do you mean by formalization? Because I'm going to argue and say you can only attend to this problem if you were to lead the transformation of the taxi industry, because on the one hand, such what you describe as reckless driving is on the basis that on the one hand, a taxi driver's earnings is based on a number of trips one has delivered on a day, on a particular day. Was on the other hand, commuters in minibus taxis, given your inability to respond to the congestion, traffic congestion, forces taxi drivers to break the law for them to be early at work, because if they're late at work, they're going to be dismissed. So I argue in this committee that the two are fundamental sources of the problem. And therefore, it would be important for the department to work with other forces and stakeholders to say, how do we respond to this? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Minister and the department. I think we have exhausted the questions. So it's the follow-ups and also the new ones that also are coming from Member Masipa and Member Ngensu. And yeah, I think it's also a new one related to the rail and the devolution. Over to you, Minister and the department. Thank you.
No, Chair, thank you very much for those questions and follow-up. Let me start with Member Masipa. Thank you very much for that question, Member Masipa, and follow-up. In terms of the rail, of the devolution of rail, we all know that there is a white paper in terms of rail. And currently, I think there's a typo. There is no particular bill or policy within national that says how does one implement the devolution of rail. But also what is encouraging in terms, while we are still waiting for that policy from Minister Creasy, we are encouraged by the service levels plan between PRASA and the City of Cape Town, which was signed on the 21st of February 2025, which is a step in the right direction, where they will actually define the different roles and responsibilities between the city and PRASA when it comes to rail. So that's a step in the right direction. And also, I think there's a lot of talk pertaining to the ports and what role do we play as mobility, and what role do we play, does DDET play in that space. And I think I would also propose that maybe we all should schedule a day where we can actually bring everything together and say, okay, this is our responsibility and what is it that we have played thus far when it comes to freight and the ports. And I think that is very much important, so that everybody is aware what is it that they can expect from us and what is it that they can expect from DDET. And also in terms of our absence when you had your oversight visit, Member Masipa, I did not receive your invite. And then if we did receive your invite, surely we would have attended. And then we would not shy away and would have been there. And in terms of the bad blood between my department or me and the minibus taxi industry, and at times I always try to move away from the focus to be on me as an individual, but to be on the department. And it is really unfair, for a member to say, to make such a statement saying that there is bad blood within us and the minibus taxi industry. Because of the challenges that the industry is confronted with, which I, as an individual, believe would not be resolved over a period of 2 days or over a period of years, because all the issues that we are currently confronted with within the minibus taxi industries are issues that has been there for decades and decades. And one would always try to, instead of not doing anything from the side of mobility, we are at least trying, to speak to the minibus taxi industry. And one of the two resolutions that was taken, during our last meeting, minibus taxi task team was actually to call for a meeting, talking about where, specifically about the future of the industry, not only in the Western Cape, but in the whole country. And we took a resolution that says we are going to meet, we are trying to find a meeting where we are going to ask Umambu Barbara to talk about some of the things that we have implemented that has been successful within the space of the Western Cape when it comes to the minibus taxi industry, and see whether there is an appetite, for collaboration or support from the side of Minister. That's an indication that we really do want to help. Where we want to help the minibus taxi industry, and the perception that is flying outside there that there is blood and all of that. And I want to diffuse it now. There is no such. And there is no such, but it does not mean when there is something that is not going right, that we are going to fold our arms. We need to condemn things that are not going right. And we need to say these are contributing factors that are actually making people not to have an uptake within the in terms of our public transport system. Those are the kind of issues that one needs to address. And we are non-apologetic about it, and we call it as it is, but it can never be regarded as being bad blood between us and the minibus taxi industry. Of course, there's a lot of challenges, and those challenges we are dealing with it, and we are trying our utmost best within the limited resources that we have, to try to make sure that everybody that gets into a minibus taxi, gets there, gets to their destination, in a safe and a faster way, of course. Of course, in terms of congestion, Member Ngenso is correct. You can go to different countries. They will tell you how they have dealt with this. You talk about people have been taxed. There is levies. For single occupancy. Somehow this is how some of the countries are actually dealing with congestion, where when they find a person driving on its own, where you are being taxed. And some people are willing to pay that, in those countries. But we also need to look at our environment within the space of South Africa and say what would work for us, in just imposing a particular, tax and say, okay, if you drive on your own, you are going to do X, Y, and Z. Also the element, whenever you drive, out of Cape Town or into Cape Town, you'll find as coming from the side of Khayelitsha, there is one dedicated lane for public transport. But what you seem to see happening every day is find that private vehicles are actually also using those dedicated lanes, and that is also cause for what we see on our roads. That's why we are saying we need to bring order and discipline, within our space, because ultimately when a lane is dedicated for public transport, it must not be an easy thing for you as an individual to go onto that lane, and cause, havoc in that particular lane. Those are the kind of things that we are looking at. How does one make sure if we have more such lanes from the side of the city, what is it that we can do to make sure that if you do actually find yourself in a place that you are not supposed to be, that there is harsh, punishment for you. And that's what we are currently looking at and making sure everybody stay in their lane, because we find there's a lot of people that's always outside their lane. And also in terms of the example that you have made, about Ipuland, where some of the students or scholars were transported in a trailer in a minibus taxi. And I have said it, during our minibus taxi task team, you'll find some of those minibus taxis are actually not even, legal taxis. It's an individual who has just tried who found himself, with a minibus taxi and is not legal, so he does not care about consequences. And then he will do such things. So those are the kind of elements that we need to root out, and making sure that whenever we look at legislation, what is it that we can do to make sure that we protect those that are legal and we deal with those ones that are not, that are illegal. And also what we have done, when we saw what actually happened, we actually followed up on the drive of that particular minibus. And we were able to get him at his house, and we were able to open a case against him. That's what we have done. And those are the kind of things that we are going to do, making sure that we continue, with Scholar Patrol, and we continue with operations with scholars, together with the Department of Education. Those are the kind of steps that we are going to do and implement to make sure that we actually attend to the issue that we are confronted with. But to be able to say, all the issues that we are confronted with in the space of mobility are issues that can be only dealt with one operation or two operations, that will be lying to the members. But ultimately what we are saying, we are dealing with the issues that we are confronted with. And ultimately we will come to a level where everybody is going to comply with the law and everybody is going to do what is expected from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, HOD, Acting HOD.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm going to ask the CFO just to touch on some of the issues that were flagged around increases and decreases in allocations. But before we get there, I think a few points that in terms of responding to some of the questions, ATNS, I know Member Masipa asked it twice. Directly, we're not managing ATNS. It's one of those areas that we exert a fair measure of advocacy and pressure. And I'm aware that the National Minister, under whose authority ATNS resides, I think she suspended the CEO of ATNS because of poor performance. And so that's all part and parcel of the advocacy role. It's a similar advocacy role that we play in relation to the port. So there isn't a direct role that we play, but advocacy very, very strong, influence very, very strong. And that's where we work together with our sister department, Economic Development and Tourism. We're part of the Port Stars team, but now the Port PMU as well. That's we bring in a certain amount to the table, and we're just waiting for final feedback around the quantums from Casidra. But as I've said, the intention is that Casidra as a project management entity for the province would run with the project management unit in relation to the port to facilitate improvements at the port operations. We've not needed to focus as much effort on the airport simply because the air access strategy that has been in implementation does not have the similar level of pressure and frustration that the seaport is providing. And so we have bi-monthly meetings around the port to ensure that we keep our finger on the pulse there. I think the issue around vagueness and roles and responsibilities, I think Minister has also spoken to that. I think we're very clear that the port is a responsibility of the National Department of Transport, but we have a very strong advocacy role, as I'm saying. In terms of devolution, and Member Bryant has had a very direct question, would we be ready for us to run with the systems? The straightforward answer is no. We need to understand what is required, work on a transition plan to get ready, and that's why development of feasibility studies is an integral part of our approach, that we begin to understand where does it best belong and how do we best approach it. In terms of working with Western Cape Education Department, I want to ask Mr. van der Merwe just to also speak to some of that. The further question, the member, was whether Mr. Payne retired. Yes, he retired at the end of December. And then just I think the general questions, the questions around allocations, the CFO will deal with that. But I think let me just bring in Mr. van der Merwe just to check, is there anything more he wants to add to what Minister said in terms of what we're doing around learner transport? And then I'll hand over to our CFO just to talk to the figures. And then I think we've kind of concluded, Chair. Willie, anything you want to add?
Thank you, actually, Chair. Through you, just in terms of learner transport, the two facets. The one is through the Department of Education, that let's call that the regulated traveling, and then we have the problems in terms of people providing a service that's not part of the education system in terms of the contracts, and that is where the biggest problem is. So from our side, HOD, Chairperson, the focus is primarily on the enforcement, and what Minister's already alluded to, it is a big task because it pops up all over. So what we try to do and what we intend to do is to show that there's consequences for your actions. And Minister has given a prime example in terms of how we proceed now. So not to say we want to make example of people, but we are starting to show that, listen, if you are going to just take the law into your own hands and you're going to put people and especially kids' lives in danger, there will be dire consequences for your actions. So we are focusing specifically on scholar transport operations, and coupled to that with the regulatory part, we are in collaboration with many municipalities currently already offering free vehicle testing, which is going to be during the Easter period now as well, as far as George municipality, Saldanha on the West Coast, Cape Winelands, etc. So we're trying to promote all road users to focus on the vehicle fitness specifically on the one side, and then secondly, in terms of if you're not going to adhere to the rules of the road, there will be consequences for your actions. So changing that road user behavior, we couple that with the extensive communication and awareness campaign, which is not only focused on Easter, but continuously throughout the year. So we've not only just focusing on, for instance, just pedestrians, we're focusing on scholar transportation, public transport, etc. So it is a whole of society approach, getting all stakeholders involved, so that we as a collective try to make a difference in terms of getting our kids safe to school.
Thank you, Willie. CFO?
Thank you, HED. Chairperson, through you. I will start off with the responses to the questions posed on tables 9 and onwards, because I think it, to a certain extent, that also addresses the questions that were posed on the tables flagged in numbered pages 377, 378, pertaining to catering, consultancy fees, travel and subsistence, and some of those variances. So on numbered page 359, it's just worthwhile to note that the variations and the changes, the calculation is based on the 25-26 year in relation to the adjusted appropriation for the current year. Now, the department did receive adjusted funds during the adjustments estimate of 24-25, and by example, we received additional funding, for example, on the integrated transport hub. And that also means, as an example, that project has certain implications. But what we also did during the adjustments process is that we reprioritized some of the funding that was under at that specific stage and rechanneled those funds to other projects that were currently in process, or basically, as we see in terms of our strategy, needed support in terms of funding. So in terms of table 9.1, the question specifically related to the decrease on that specific aspect, and that was under Program 1 administration. And the reason for that is that there was business and performance monitoring, and as well as the strategy pertaining to complexity research that was done during the adjustments estimate that isn't included in the 25-26. So that project basically is completed or almost complete. And that's the majority of that decrease that you would see over there. In terms of table 9.2, this was a decrease as well. And more specifically, on sub-program 2, and that was purely for the 25.2 million that we received during the adjustments estimates for the integrated transport hub and associated costs. Then in terms of table 9.5, there was also a question pertaining to the decrease, and that was quite a significant decrease. So the purchase orders that were issued during the previous financial year, and that pertained to the 22-23 financial, 23-24 financial year, rolled over into the current financial year. Now, if we just take the numbers that's involved, it's vehicle replacements, and that was over 1 billion. It's 1.039 billion. Property, plant and equipment, that pertains to mostly computer purchases, 3.22 million. And then also software and intangible assets, 84.169 million. And that led to the adjustments estimate for the current year being higher than next year's forecast for the financial year. So basically, it's open purchase orders that transfer to this year. We're going to spend the money in this year. And basically next year, in terms of the forecast for 25-26, we anticipate that would have already been spent, and that's the reason for that decrease. Now, linking to that, more specifically, the questions in terms of catering, consulting, and traveling and subsistence, that's based on the strategy and the rollout of some of our key projects. So basically, it's activity-driven allocations that we are looking at. For example, at road safety management, if we are allocating 14 officials to basically take the operations and for the rollout of some of those initiatives, those people would obviously need catering in terms of engagements that they've got. There's travel and subsistence aspects that we're linking to that. That's one example. Thanks to basically the timing of certain projects that we've got. So that's what would be the reason for those fluctuations. Chairperson, what we also just need to take into account that some of these fluctuations, as we alluded to earlier, as we are filling posts, those fluctuations lead to the increase in cost of employment. And for example, that would also be sub-program 4.1 and the traffic management, which is a very good example of that we anticipate to have that chief director post full, because currently those officials don't necessarily attract acting allowance at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Department. Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much. I think we have exhausted now the questions. I'm aware that members, they will want to make a follow-up, but we'll need to provide this opportunity for the members of the public. Are there any members of the public here? Mamo Jones, can you help me? Going once, twice, three. Nobody. Okay. Thank you, Minister. Thank you again, the department officials, and also those who are not here presenting you. You are presenting them. Just want to thank them very much. So for this opportunity now, it's going to be for only the members. You could be able to exit if you want to. It's up to you, where we'll be able to deliberate on the report. Can we give you now, Minister, your parting shots before you exit? Thank you very much.
Salman bulele ngethuba othe wasinikeza lona thina siyikomiti, and ndibulele nangemibuzo esiye sakwazi uyiphendula neminye ke sithe sawubuyela kuni. And ke ngelishwa ke andizokwazi uphendula ezinye izinto. Ndibona ubha wam umember Nqentsu ingathi unengxaki ne-GNU, so yiyonto funeka baqubisene nayo bona bebodwa. Kodwa from our side, thank you very much. And also to the colleagues from the Department of Mobility under the leadership of the acting HOD, Mr. Daryl.
Honorable Minister, the hand of Honorable Brand is up. So.
Chair, let the minister finish. I'm chairing here. Continue, Minister.
And under the leadership of Daryl Jacobs, and also Chair, I also want to appreciate him because he had to come in today for this meeting, as he has lost his father last week, and the funeral is only taking place tomorrow. And it's just to show his commitment for the side of mobility, and also to the colleagues that attended the meeting today from the department. Thank you very much for your responses. And Chair, if you allow us, we will like to excuse ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But before you disappear, Member Bright has got a question.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's just I didn't have a chance to switch over to the translation service if it is available. But I wonder if Minister could maybe just share that first section in English, just so we can all be on the same page. My apologies.
Member Brian, in a short summary was just to say thank you very much to the members for the questions and for the answers, and also in terms of questions raised specifically by Member Nensu in terms of his views about devolution and FRI, the request for information that has been sent out by the Minister, Barbara Creasy. Those are issues that he needs to deal with, offline with any GNU, but I just wanted to say thank you very much to the members and for allowing us to present our budget and our entity to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You can exit. All the best. 1 minute exit because some of you were in
Thank
the
you, Chair
same.
and members.
Thank you, Acting HOD.
Thank you, Chair.
All the best.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I think we are left with the members only. Who's September? Members, now it's a time that we are supposed to express the view, whether we support or not. Will you please guide me, Ms. Jones? So it's either you support or you do not support. If you want to abstain so that you could be able to hold your view at the House, it's also allowed. Let's start with those who support the budget, the appropriation. Hands.
Okay.
These are all the hands for the support. We've got that.
Chair.
One, two, yeah. Member, is it Constable?
Yes.
Okay.
Chairperson, two of my questions wasn't answered, and I didn't want to drag on with the meeting. So I'm just recorded here, specifically the one of the.
We're going to take it in the resolution. After this, we'll go to the resolutions.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. We have got the hands for the support. Any not supporting? Okay, I forgot my hand. Sorry, my hand for support. Okay, the hands. Okay, can we lower our hands? Anyone not supporting? Please lower the hands now. Member Brian, lower your hand first. Member Ngensu. Okay, now, okay. You just support or not support?
Thank you very much, Chair. I don't know why are you coercing Member Brian not to yet. He was not supporting. Chair, given the content of the budget, and despite that, one could see that indeed there are some realignments of neoliberal forces from the DA and from the movement, on certain matters. As the ANC in the Western Cape, we do not support this vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is recorded. So we've got that part of it. Mama Jones, the next part of it. Can you please again flight the? Must wear my spectacles. Okay. The draft committee report reads, the draft committee report of the Standing Committee on Mobility on Vote 8, Mobility in the Schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill 25, dated 31st March 2025. The Standing Committee reports that it considered Vote 8 in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill referred to the committee in terms of the Standing Rule 188, and that it supports, does not support the vote referred to it. What is next, Ms. Jones?
Okay, so the committee then advised that they support the vote, and there is a minority view, so that will now reflect that in accordance with Standing Rule 90,
That's a part
and
that
then
we're
we'll just,
waiting for.
yeah, and then we'll just reread the report quickly.
Okay.
Just give me a couple of seconds.
Okay,
Just to fix
whilst you are
this.
typing, can we I respond to Member Masipa whilst you are typing? I was assuming that you already typed. Sorry to rush you.
Oh,
Member
sorry.
Masipa.
Thank you, Chair. I just thought I should alert you that the report is written wrongly, but I see changes are being made. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
I just
yeah,
need to know that.
sorry to rush you.
Sorry, Chair. Member Benson
Member,
is from
yeah.
from
Member
which?
Bryant. Member Bryant first. Whilst you are typing. Whilst you are typing, Member Bryant.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, it's more just a question of clarity. I know Member Heron was with us earlier on in the meeting. Did he drop off, or was? I'm just
yes.
Concerned that maybe he didn't get an opportunity
it's in the
to
chat
cast
room.
his vote.
He put it in the chat. He
did
put it in the chat.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, sorry, my apologies. Just making sure we got all the votes. That's all. Thanks.
Chair,
yes.
Chair, unfortunately, because I'm new to the committee, I'm not sure from which political party Member Benson is.
ANC.
Oh, okay. So so then
I
this
can
needs to be-
understand. You assume it's from SACP. No, there's no SACP in the house.
Chair, I'm ready for you to read.
Okay. Can I read from the Standing Committee on Mobility reports that it considered vote 8 in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2 2025 referred to the committee in terms of Standing Rule 188 and that it supports. In accordance with the Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view to not support the vote. We got it. That is supposed to vote.
Yes, I have it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have it now. The last part, resolutions. Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. The resolutions, starting with a member constable. I'm not sure whether we must start with you or probably from you, Mimi, Ms. Jones, if you have got any that you have written, but let's start with a member constable first.
Chairperson, no, it's not going to be part of the resolution. I will write formal questions to the MEC because I noticed that they don't want to answer the questions with regard to the expenditure on consultants. So I will ask the question in Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jones, are there any that you probably have managed to draft? From your side?
Was actually the resolutions by member now with regards to the consultancy and how much is being spent on it, but he's advised that he is going to write for a formal narrative on that. And then I also had something on a report from the department where they've indicated that they would provide the committee with a report on the prototype vehicles that can benefit GMT. And then I'm not sure if you're interested in having that as a resolution.
Members?
And then
yeah, okay.
And then I have that the committee wants a briefing on driving the freight strategy and demand model with Casidra and the city. So I'm not sure whether members are interested in having that briefing.
Any input from members?
Chair.
Member Masipa?
Yes, from where I sit, I think maybe the resolution in that regard, because I think Casidra will primarily form part of the consultancy. So maybe, with the revised plan that have actually, ensured that there are increase in consultancy and the subsistence travel and so forth. Maybe if the department can provide us with that, comprehensively in terms of, where the budget, what do you call the movement in terms of budget, where the plan, had effect on the movement of the budget as such. I'm just thinking that maybe that way, then we get a comprehensive picture. We don't just get a piecemeal, get a comprehensive picture. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. All right. Is there anything we want to add on the devolutions? Or we are still, it's still matters arising from the previous. There's still more. We're still waiting for the national level. Okay, I get that. I think we have
Chair?
covered. Yeah.
Chair.
Member Masipa?
Chair, I think I'm the one that kind of raised this devolution, but as I listen to the minister, obviously, or the DDG, they play not really a direct role in that regard. And obviously, it's a strategy that is driven through the city that is really been pushing for the devolution. I think maybe at some point we might have to engage maybe the city and just understand how far they are, so that they can really maybe provide us with a comprehensive plan around this devolution. Because I don't think that the province is ready. I mean, they did say that they are not ready at all, so that's just my thought, Chair, but I mean,
yeah, I agree. No, I agree. I agree because they did it. That's why the HOD said that, to be frank, honestly, it's about no, will never be ready. So I get it. And also the city has already done I'm not sure what they signed at the national at that time. So I think we have covered most of the resolutions. Is there anything that I have left it out? So, yeah. So we got this. Thank you very much, members. Thank you very much, Mrs. Jones, for assisting us. All the best. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, guys. Bye.